Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We want to welcome you to another interesting and fascinating conversation about ethics, justice, issues that are relevant to the well-being of our listeners and our viewers. And we come here each week bringing you profound messages of justice. Well, if you can recall, on May 14 of this year, uh, tragedy struck the city of Buffalo as a white supremacist committed an act of terror. At a local supermarket, we are told, killing over 10, injuring others, and traumatizing that entire community. This came as a surprise to many people in the area, in the Buffalo area, but for many critics, this was not a surprise at all. The current statistics of mass shootings in this country for just this year is estimated now at about 314 mass shootings in this country so far, according to the Boston Globe and the New York Times. And then to go further, the Gun Violence Archive, a nonprofit that tracks the shootings in the U.S., has recorded about 22,000 people. 22,000 this year so far, according to the archive records. Now, the United States, as far as we know, has more lax firearms laws and policies compared to other developed countries. The federal right to own firearm is baked into that constitutional framework via it's called the Second Amendment. You know, gun laws and regulations also vary from one state to the other. And the debate around gun ownership and the Second Amendment is nothing new in the United States. The Uvalde shooting, or the massacre, as you would call it, those are just some highlights of what is prevailing today in this country. We've invited two guests to join us today to have a conversation around the issue of justice, especially from the Buffalo area. Pastoral leaders are always at the center of these moral debates about shooting in our country. Joining us today from Buffalo, New York, happens to be a great colleague of ours, a scholar, a Black scholar. He's a PhD candidate, wrapping up his last semester at Drew University, a student in religion and social ethics. But if you heard about the name Howard Thurman, a mystic as he's clearly defined and characterized within the context of Black theology, then you will know what I'm talking about in terms of the brother that is going to be introducing himself quite shortly. He happens to be the senior pastor at the Macedonian Missionary Baptist Church. I like that missionary name. On the east side in Buffalo, New York, and like I indicated, we come a long way, and also with us is his wife, lovely wife, who's going to be sharing a time with us today. A gifted opera singer and a teacher. These are two incredible guests that we have today. And to begin this show, I'm going to take this time now to let them introduce themselves as we begin this all-important conversation. And for the sake of public disclosure, this is an act of providence. This was obtained and ordained in heaven even before we got here. And it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be educational. Besides Drew University, the brother is also an alum from Boston U. So it's encompassing all of the conversation that we're going to be putting together today. Welcome, sir. Let me let you introduce yourself, and we'll be followed by your lovely wife, who is also on the program with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dr., as I call you, Dr. Pede, for the invitation to share with you today and to share with you straight from Buffalo much of what we've been doing. And I do use the term we because there are other folks who are not seen today who have been contributing to this struggle so powerfully. And one of them is here with us today, and that's Sigourney Cook, who is a major, as you've already named, educator and nonprofit leader here in the city of Buffalo. And so her work has just been so dynamic. So I just thank you for the opportunity to share with you. You said we go way back, and that's true. As roommates at Drew, as you were finishing up your course of study there, and I was beginning my course of study there. So it's just good to see the way that your work has carried over, the way that it's been sustainable, and the way that you have such a global approach. We used to use the term many years ago, Pan-African approach. I know we don't use that word. I know we don't use that term.
Don't call it an African approach, brother. You can say that. Be proud to say it.
That we're allowed to say that, a Pan-African, a global approach.
That's
to the struggle of Black people, which we find that struggle on every land and territory that Black folks exist. And that's a part of the story, and we got to talk a little bit about that. So thank you again. Buffalo is certainly no exclusion, right? It's no exception. Yeah.
That's quite correct. Yeah. And welcome to the show, my sister. In the Black church, we say Mother Cook. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Dr. Pede, for the invitation. It's been a while since we've seen each other, but I am glad to see and hear that you are doing well and still, letting God use you to do this very important work. Again, as he said, I'm Sigourney Cook. I currently serve as the executive director of the King Urban Life Center on Buffalo's East Side. We are a nonprofit organization housed in a former Catholic church that has been repurposed to serve our community, young people and their families, and providing them with educational programming to help supplement what they do not receive in school and what they don't receive during their school recesses, summer and winter months, and after school. We have an after school program. We serve K through 8. We have a summer camp that is happening right now. We serve K through 6, and an early childhood learning literacy program that serves ages 18 months to about 5 years old. And all of our programming is free. So we have been doing this work for close to 20 years now. And we continue to do this even more intentionally since 514 happened. So we can talk more later, but I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, welcome to the show. And what struck me, Brother Cook, I'm gonna go back on that day, on that day when the event occurred. Talk to us a little. Where were you? Because once I saw that coming up on the news, my concentration was, okay, I wonder where is Brother Cook? Let me try to get to my brother to see what is prevailing. Where were you at the time?
Thanks so much. So depending on what time you were watching, I was probably right outside of the tops at some point if you were watching that evening. We had just gotten back to the city of Buffalo, from which, I mean, this is the story for so many people, from a graduation of our students who are here at the city campus for Houghton College. And they graduated that day, many our second year students, and they were celebrating with their families. We were pulling right back into Buffalo around 2:30, which we know is when the first shots rang out. And we got a text message that just said, "Don't go down Jefferson Avenue." And there's been a shooting at the tops. And then people started saying that there was a video of this shooting. And I was very concerned because we live only moments from that tops market, and the church is even closer to that tops market. Once I heard that the assailant, there was word that the assailant had been white, I immediately said to myself, because we live in America, this has been a hate crime. And so I got on the line with several colleagues. There was a call for clergy to come to the top site because there was a growing crowd outside of the top site. And I just want to say I'm going to discuss these things honestly and openly, so I know there may be people who are listening who cannot deal with these details, and I won't be unnecessarily gruesome. I think it's important for us to talk specifically about the regularity, right, of white violence, of white supremacist violence. And so this crowd was essentially having trouble moving from in front of the tops market because several victims were on the ground in the parking lot, their loved ones. And so we needed clergy who could come down there, who were informed, trauma informed, who could move. They weren't listening to the police, obviously, right? And there's many tensions between police and Black community here. And so they felt that pastors would be able to move that crowd much more efficiently. And we did. We moved the crowd. And then I spent the rest of the evening alongside a number of other pastors praying for families who were coming to a local school to find out what had happened with their relative. So there were some who were coming and finding out that their relatives who had been in the store were alive and well. There were others who were coming and finding out that their loved one was killed, or that they had no news because all of the victims had not been identified, that they had no news about their loved one. And several of the victims were in such a condition that we didn't know who they were, right? So this is a gentleman who was very hateful in the way he massacred the bodies of Black people. And so it was the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. The grief was unlike any other. I've been a clergy person for over 10 years. I've never seen grief like that in my life, never. And I hope never to see it again.
Yeah. Let me come to you, Sister Sebweni. You deal with kids. Just talk to us a little about what's the current situation like, the aftermath of the violence. You interacting with school-going aged, children who I suppose moving from one end to another, an after-school program. What was that day like in terms of your own engagement with the kids? And where do we stand now? Because, normally there's always this publicity, the concern of those who are the top government officials, Governor Hoko and others who eventually would, show up on that particular day, and maybe the day after, as things subside, you get to realize once the national attention is removed from what is happening, that's a whole different story. So you're an educator. Talk to us a little for the benefit of our audience and those viewing.
Yes, so immediately when this happened, my heart and our efforts here went to the care of our youth, because that unfortunately did get overlooked very quickly. And we don't realize how much students are affected by these kinds of things on top of the trauma that they were already experiencing, especially coming out of this global pandemic. So what we saw days after that, unfortunately, schools did not close. They did the best, well, I'll say, they seem to have done what they could around getting social, emotional support for the students the first couple of days. And a lot of the mental health services and organizations around here tried to rally together to make sure that services for not just youth, but their families were accessible on Jefferson, down the street from the shooting, at a local community center and stadium. However, what we saw was the students were afraid to leave their homes. They were afraid to go to school. They were afraid for their parents or their caregivers to leave the homes to go to work. So there was low attendance in a lot of the schools and after school programs. Parents and caregivers weren't going to work. And unfortunately, because of that trauma and the uncertainty of this heinous act, because I don't know if you all know, this was not the last stop for that guy. His manifesto had clearly written out that he was not done. After the tops, he was going to go find some other places to cause more havoc and kill more people, Black people. So there was a lot of uncertainty around their safety. And so they were not willing to go accept the help that was being provided for them it was the Johnny B. Wiley Center on Jefferson and some of the other organizations that had set up shop to provide mental and social emotional services, because they didn't want to leave their homes. And that actually lasted for weeks and months after. Things have settled down a little bit, but we know we could see the difference in the children's behavior. Because like I said, this was on top of the effects of a global pandemic. These students are just re-entering their school buildings, being able to, interact with each other in closer proximity. So this was just traumatic on a whole nother level. So that's what we're dealing with.
Okay. It's quite troubling. Pastor Cook, mental health services, counseling services. The governor of New York, I listened quite keenly, they were putting out $3 million, $50 million, making sure that churches, agencies, institutions in the Buffalo area, especially on the east side. You're a pastor, a social activist in the area. Let's get to talk about that a little. Where do we stand in terms of the support? The support in this service, is it readily coming? Is it accessible? Is there too much bureaucracy? These things are spoken when the news cameras are around. In reality, in terms of the aspect of implementation, the emphasis with Black lives and the challenges that the nation is facing and what is evolving and the misinterpretation of situations around those conversations that we always have had. Talk to us a little. You're a Black scholar. I mean, you know the history in terms of white supremacy, the issue concerning Black bodies in this nation. and some of the many challenges that we are encountering, you are on the ground. You must be speaking from a very primary source because you are engaging on a daily basis the victims, people who are victimized by this horrific incident and the aftermath of it, the trauma that comes with it, and the many challenges. How people get to the grocery stores?
Right.
How do people get food? The food banks.
Yes.
What are the churches doing?
Right.
Yeah, get to take us a little bit, one step to another. Give us some insight on what's happening in Buffalo. Sure. Is Buffalo recovering? Or let's get the real story from the real person who is on the ground.
Yeah. I think I want to name that I think part of what white supremacist attacks like these are supposed to do, right? And and you mentioned, right, part of being a student of history is to know that these are linked to historic legacies of white supremacist terror that have existed in this country for a very long time and globally existed, right? So when you think about the role of white supremacist terror, what it is supposed to do, it is supposed to frighten. It is supposed to frighten African Americans participating in normal daily activities, right? And in many respects, this has done that. It has disrupted normal daily activities that folks are involved in. So Sigourney mentioned earlier that part of the challenge with this is for example, the manifesto. There were so many other sites mentioned in that manifesto, including Black churches. And so many of them churches that I know well, right, from that area. So when you talk about the fear that has existed in the community, the fear is that, right, this gentleman, and I've said this several times, and people have used it since that time, the shooter has been apprehended, but the killer is yet on the loose, right? And that is the fear, that there will be these copycats who are consistently taking up the mantle of this individual. And it's not an exaggeration to say that we've already seen some of that. You heard the story, I'm sure, because I know you follow the news well. There have already been threats, right? A Washington man was recently arrested because he threatened to come to that tops and to do harm to African Americans once again. So when you say, is the community recovering, there's still a deep sense of fear which is what these terrorist attacks are about. From 9/11 on down, right? These terrorist attacks are about disrupting the normal flow of life, making folks to think that they shouldn't be able to access, or they're not safe in accessing the important services, which I think is attached to your question, Dr. Pede, about why African Americans may not be accessing some of the sources, mental health resources and others. What I would like to see, yes, there has been a dumping of money into the area. What is also important is that those resources are linked to existing structures that people trust. So they may not be willing to go and have a conversation about their mental health in a space that they've never been to, at a community center.
No, not at all.
They may be willing to have that conversation at their church, where their pastor is, right? Or in the context of like Sigourney at the King Center, which is a trusted institution in the community. So I happen to be in conversations with our governor and with some of our elected officials. I'm consistently pushing them to use the success ensuring resources that exist in the community as vehicles for delivery, service delivery.
They're hearing your plea.
I think so. I've seen a lot more movement, but I think the problem there are two problems, right? That the resources are limited, number one. And then I think the second problem is that mass shootings happen so often in this country that it's on to the next. And we saw that. We hadn't even buried all of the victims here in Buffalo. We were in the course of a week full of funerals when Uvalde happened. And so immediately attention turned from Buffalo. I looked at Jefferson Avenue and saw the cameras leave, right? All of that had set up the whole station of Jefferson Avenue. They were gone because they had to get to Texas. It happens so often there really isn't even time to adequately plan. And that says something deep about the condition of our country, I think.
The moral question for me, as now a Liberian American, all right, if I will call it that way, the moral question for me, and let's deep a little deeper, Julian, into the conversation around this whole concept about the First Amendment. If somebody, I've lived in the war zone, I can't fight them. I really can't realistically fight them with somebody take an LAR-15. You know, those are weapons of war. All right, and it's been used in the name of the First Amendment. That I struggle with that, you know, in terms of what it is, and I share with people that war is not a joke. You know, war is dangerous, and it leads to chaos. It creates all sorts of problems, trauma, you know, indignation, abuse of just basic human rights. And I keep struggling in terms of, well, America's supposed to be a developed country. What is the struggle with morally looking at what is right and saying this is right?
Absolutely.
And saying, well, if somebody can go into a store and take an LAR-15 in the name of the First Amendment.
Absolutely.
I struggle with that.
Yeah, deep trouble. And you know, part of this is deeply rooted. I mean, you're familiar with it because you were trained as well as a scholar, as a religious scholar, right? And as a journalist. Some of this is rooted in deep misinterpretation of ancient text, right? Which we deal with consistently when we talk about the Bible, right?
All the time.
The approach with interpreting text is to understand the context. And the reality is, when the Second Amendment was developed, there was no weapon like AR-15 that could massacre 10 people in a matter of 2 minutes, right? This was not a long attack. The majority of that video that Peyton Gendron live streamed, right, was 20 minutes of it was him talking. About 5 minutes of it was him killing people, right? So we have to think about that. And I think the other piece of this, and I see this a lot in American politics, this constant need to separate racism from the gun issue. That's problematic because the reality is that the AR-15 is the weapon of choice for people who participate in who enact these racist attacks. Whether you're looking at Mother Emanuel Church, whether you're looking at the shooting at the Sikh temple, even when you go overseas and you look at the Christchurch massacre, these are the weapons of choice for these perpetrators. So we cannot have a discussion about white supremacist violence broadly if we will not also have the weapon discussion at the same time. And until we make those changes, you're right, it's a moral issue. Until we make those changes, we are arming these people. We've got to acknowledge that. We are arming people who do these things.
Those of you who just joined us, want to welcome you to Meet in the Middle. This program is designed for you and with you in mind. It's a production of the anti-racism team of the Western Pennsylvania Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church. We are in conversation with the senior pastor of the Macedonian Missionary Baptist Church on the east side in Buffalo, New York, and of course his wife, Sigwini Cook, who happens to be an opera singer. Let me come to you, Sister Cook, as we say in the African church. Can you share with our audience today, what could you share with us as an opera singer as we share this particular sacred space for those who are listening. Something that has to do with rights and justice, the Black church. Go back. What is it that you like to share with us today as we have this conversation?
You know what? I think I'll share a piece by Sweet Honey in the Rock.
Wow.
It's called "We Who Believe in Freedom Cannot Rest." Or I'm sorry, it's not. It's called Ella's song. Excuse me. But those are the lyrics. So I'll sing a verse from there if you don't mind.
Oh, take it away.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mother sons, is as important as the killing of white men, white mother sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
Wow, that was quite powerful, and I'm hoping that we can have the opportunity in a not too distant future to just do a show with you. To do a show with you, the voice of Mrs. Seguin Cook, who happens to be an educator, and the wife of Brother Cook, who is a PhD candidate of religion and social ethics at Drew University. He's also the senior pastor at Macedonian Missionary Baptist Church on the east side in Buffalo, New York. If you just joined us, we want to welcome you to the show. We are making a follow-up in terms of the May 14 massacre in Buffalo that took away the life of more than about 10 people in that area. And many people were injured as a consequence of that particular horrific shooting. Pastor Cook, let me come to you. Those listening to us today, who will have interest in wanting to be helpful to the community. How do they get out to you there in on the east side in Buffalo?
Absolutely. So we want to direct you to organizations that are doing so much work. And you talked a little bit about this earlier, Dr. Pede. There is still so much work to be done, right? Now is when the work really gets done. Sigourney really spoke about this so powerfully earlier, that we are just seeing people beginning to emerge from their homes and from their hermitage, right? So in many respects, that those services that were offered during that first week and first period, an abundance of services, that was great, but they're not going to give the most impact because, as we know, people retreat from that. This is the time where we need real serious support for the sustainable work. So organizations like the King Urban Life Center, getting money out to them, getting money out to organizations, and you can look up all of these addresses online, getting organizations like Voice Buffalo your support, Organizations like Black Love Resist in the Rust. I'll say that again. Black Love Resist in the Rust. That really specializes in bringing hope to Black folks who live in Rust Belt cities, because that's a part of the narrative that never gets told about Rust Belt cities, right? When we think about Rust Belt cities, typically we think about white poverty. But the reality is what happens to African Americans who are already at a disadvantage racially in many of these spaces. What does it mean for them to also be at a disadvantage racially and economically? So we've got to think about that. But those are, and then you need to support Black churches. I'm going to be very honest. I'm big on that. I believe that the oldest grassroots institutions in Black communities very often are Black churches, whose resources are being pulled upon in tremendous ways during a period like this, after our resources were pulled upon tremendously during the COVID-19 crisis. So we need your support. Macedonia is one of them, but there are many African-American churches in Buffalo doing great work. Pick one, I would say honestly, pick somewhere that you think matches your gifts and skills and matches your interests, and give in that way. If you must come to Buffalo, come ready to work, but also know that your finances are so important to keeping this work going on.
Churches, grassroots organizations, and the mayor's office.
Yes.
What's going on? What's the coordination in there? Are you all collaborating, trying to make sure this work gets done?
We are, but we could be doing a whole lot better. I want to be honest about that. We are trying to coordinate. We could be doing a whole lot better. You already know, right? That whenever you're trying to blend churches and leaders, you already know you've got complications, which we have got to realize, and I know I can say this to you, is a symptom of white supremacy, right? This desire to be the front leader, the front runner. Everybody wants to be the Martin Luther King in the movement, right? Because that's what we told ourselves about the movement.
It can't be Martin Luther King.
That's right. And truth be told, Martin Luther King wasn't Martin Luther King. The version that we tell ourselves was not Martin Luther King Jr. either. So, but that's a symptom of white supremacy, right? This need for recognition. And until we break that, the need to be identified as the central leader of a movement, we are going to continue to face these things. That it divides us further. It does not help us. It also pushes to the back the voices of women, and it pushes back the voices of our LGBTQIA siblings as well. So we've got to be mindful of those things. And we got some amazing leaders here in this space who are women, and we've got some Black women in particular, and we've got some amazing leaders who are LGBTQIA identifying, and we better figure out how to work together.
That's quite correct. I think finding a common ground is something that we need to be contemplative of.
That's right.
Need to be engaged in. And that brings me to Howard Thurman, Howard Washington Thurman. The shifting of the atmosphere in this America that we see, the future of the Black church, Brother Cook, these are things that we talk about on campus. A couple of years back, talk to us a little. Where are we in post-racial America?
Whew. Well, we certainly aren't post-race. That's the one place we are not. We certainly aren't post-race, and it has gotten more clear to use that term by oh my goodness, name it George Yancey, backlash or
yeah,
backlash, right? That what we're seeing,
that's right.
What we are seeing in this sort of vehement emergence or re-emergence of white supremacy and white supremacist groups is a direct result of the election of Barack Obama, right? And the strides that we're taking. And we see that this is, again, right, a student of history. this is what we see each time there is any inkling of Black progress. We see it in Reconstruction. We see it again in the early 19th century, right? When you think about the Red Summer of 1919, early 20th century, I'm sorry, in the Red Summer of 1919. And now we're seeing it again. We see it in the 1980s, after the victories of the Civil Rights Movement, right? We see that, and that sort of legacy is continuing. So why do we need Howard Thurman? Here it is. This is why I think we need Howard Thurman, very briefly, because I think Howard Thurman is about the cultivation of Black joy and Black health. And that's where we need to be spending our time. I'm at a place in my life where I can no longer spend my time trying to convince white people that racism exists. I can't do that anymore. It's not healthy for me to do that anymore. What I need to be doing, and what I see your program, what I see you doing, and I saw you embody this. That's why I said I need to get connected to this brother. I saw you embodying this at Drew, is the cultivation of our community. What does it mean for us to cultivate around not just Black struggle, but to really think about what it means to center Black joy and Black flourishing? Because we often know very well how to critique systems of injustice. What we don't know very well, and now I'm getting into some of my dissertation, is what it means to create communities for the practice of sustainable Black flourishing. We haven't conceptualized that very well because Black suffering is so normal. And I see Thurman as being pretty key to thinking through that.
Let me come to you, Mother Cook. Black women, they've always been in the struggle for freedom. You're an educator. What is it like in Buffalo after this massacre, this heinous attack on the grocery supermarket? An educator engaging a lot of students in the community. From a justice standpoint, I listen to you keenly. You're doing everything for free for all of those students who are passing through the King Center. What is that Black woman solidarity like as we speak today?
I think it's a beautiful thing to see Black women get their just due. However, it's disappointing that it had to come to this for these Black leaders to be recognized and supported. That's, you know, anywhere you go, it's a struggle for Black women to support the, you know, people recognizing the value in the Black voice. Black women especially are nurturers by nature. So, you know, the work that I do and the work that I've been able to collaborate with my fellow Black women leaders, we've always made sure that our youth are in the forefront because as you saw, unfortunately, in this massacre, a lot of the people that were killed were seniors, and majority of them were women. People who saw these their community members every day, who made sure to feed and clothe their community members, regardless of, you know, whether they were born into their families or not. So that affected this community greatly, larger than, you know, just that location at the tops. So our work as Black women leaders have been, let's band together and make sure that, you know, we are all connected. We are not reinventing any other wheel, but we are supporting each other, and that our youth are at the forefront, that they're not forgotten, because this is more traumatic for them, probably most likely than it is for many adults, because they have, you know, they have already lost the social interaction with their, you know, with their friends, with their support systems because of the pandemic for over 2 years. And then they have to be concerned about, you know, these people who are older than them being gunned down and not having a support system when they come home. And so I think it's wonderful to see all these Black women leaders emerge and get the response that they've been working so hard for, to better this community and make sure that our youth are exposed to, experiences beyond what they get at home or in their classrooms, so that they are not, and so that they are empowered and not deterred, that their development is not deterred by this kind of incident. That they are knowledgeable about who they are and what this system creates, but that it does not define them and their future. I think that's definitely what I've seen, and I am proud to see that. However, I am disappointed that it had to take something this large and negative for these women to be uplifted.
Well, we will continue to keep Buffalo in our prayers. It's been quite a fascinating conversation here today on this edition of Meet in the Middle with Reverend Julian Armah Cook, who happens to be the senior pastor at the Macedonian Missionary Baptist Church on the east side in Buffalo, New York. And of course, also with us, Sister Sigwini Cook, who happens to be the mother of the church, like we say in the Black church. I want to thank you so much, Sigwini. Reverend Cook, just quickly, just as we wrap up, I'm hoping we can do this again, that we can have an opportunity to come and share. It's been quite fascinating. It's been educational for many of those who will view and watch this program globally. Let me get closing from you, Reverend Cook, and see whether Mrs. Cook can take us away with another song to wrap up this program.
Absolutely. Just to wrap it up, I agree with you so much, Dr. Pede. We need to keep these conversations going. I have been encouraging people, if you care about Buffalo, just one of the ways I've been encouraging people is just to do something every day related to Buffalo, whether it be putting up a post, whether it be thinking about a community organization, learning more about one. Keep Buffalo a part of your year. And I imagine that if more folks would just do that for 1 year, it would be amazing to see what would happen in this space, right? Buffalo has has so much promise, but we've got a number of challenges around poverty, around child poverty in particular, that Sigourney has already talked to you about. And so we need your support as we try to continue to walk through, right? This difficult is not even the word. It's atrocious, it's horrific period that we found ourselves in. Well, that has been brought to us in many respects. So please keep us, again, come and have another conversation. We don't need to let this moment pass us by.
Yeah, so true. We're gonna do that. Reverend Julian Armah Cook, he's from the South. He's also from Chicago. And I was thinking about the Moody Bible Institute just the other day when I was talking to another colleague. I grew up listening to the Moody Bible Institute broadcast all the way in Liberia.
Didn't we all? Yeah, didn't we all? Yeah.
Mrs. Cook is an opera singer. Take us home. What are you gonna sing for us?
I'm gonna sing.
Take it away.
One of those songs that everybody should know that they learned in Sunday school as a child, or some service in church. This Little Light of Mine.
There we go.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Ooh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Oh, yes. I want to listen to that voice continuously. That's so wonderful. I want to thank you. I want to thank you both. It's been quite inspiring, but time has cut us with us. It's been a wonderful conversation. I want to wish you all well. Give my regards to the brothers and sisters at Macedonian Baptist Church. Hopefully we will be there before
They've been asking for you. They've been asking for you. Said, when is he coming back to preach?
That's right. We gotta work it out. But I want to thank you so much. We just had about an hour to be here. I want to thank you, Reverend Cook. I want to thank you, Sister Seguining, and it's been a great pleasure having these two giants, Pastor Cook, who happens to be a senior pastor at the Macedonian Baptist Church in Buffalo. Seguining Cook is a teacher, educator, and of course, mother of the church as well. She's playing just so many roles. She's also an opera singer. Well, we will talk about the Liberian story, Seguini, hopefully next time when we come. I didn't forget about that. And the potato grains and everything that has to do with it. So, but Tom has caught up with us. Take care, you both, and to our audience, want to thank you for joining us today. We'll see you again another time. When we get together, when it has to do with justice, it has to do with equity, and of course, creating the framework. That framework of upholding the American ideal is just an idea. How do we protect it? And how do we protect it, ensuring to maintain democracy? This is why we meet in the middle, to have a genuine conversation about justice. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take care, guys.
Have a good one.
You as well.